Hey there, and welcome back to Family Travel Unpacked. I'm your host, Melissa, and in case you're new here, you can find tons of detailed destination guides, travel tips, hacks, and more on my website, thefamilyvoyage.com. And if you've been enjoying the show, be sure to hit follow or drop a like wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And leave a 5-star review while you're at it, because it really helps other families find the show. If you're a loyal listener, first off, thank you, because I truly couldn't do this without you. I'm sorry I wasn't able to share anything with you last week, but I spent 5 amazing days in Aspen learning and connecting with a completely different community, and of course, taking in the beautiful scenery. And to my new friend, Ani, if you're listening, you can consider this your shout out and remember that I'll accept my $5 in either American or Canadian currency next year. Today's episode was supposed to be a recap of our family's end of summer getaway to Wild Dunes, which is a Hyatt beach resort just outside of Charleston, South Carolina. I was super excited to get down there because it looks totally fun and relaxing for a family, and we had to cancel our previous plans 2 years ago due to a hurricane that came through. As they say, man plans and God laughs. Friday morning, as I was switching over my suitcase from the Aspen hiking and retreat clothes to the South Carolina beach wardrobe, my phone started buzzing every half hour. It was Southwest, pushing our first flight later and later and later. Eventually, it got pushed back so far that we would have totally missed our connection in Baltimore. I spent the entire afternoon hunched over my laptop trying to figure out something fun for our last weekend of summer, but unfortunately, I just couldn't make anything work. It turns out every other family in the eastern third of the United States was probably visiting some beachy destination too. Ultimately, we canceled and we wound up staying home for the weekend, which was fine, but definitely not what I had planned. Now, a couple quick notes on how we handled that last-minute cancellation. Just stuff that you can put in your back pocket in case you need it. The easiest by far was our flights. I had booked Southwest Basic on points, and you can just cancel that 10 minutes before the originally scheduled departure and get all the points back. Now keep that in mind, we had a 3:50 flight scheduled, and by the time I canceled, it was looking like the flight wasn't going to take off until closer to 7 p.m., but I still had to cancel by 3:40 p.m. The hotel took a little more effort. Normally when you cancel a points booking far enough in advance, the points just go right back in your account and it's all straightforward. But it's really important that you pay attention to the cancellation policy when you book, because a lot of resort properties have longer cancellation windows even if you're booking on points. Some aren't cancelable at all, and others have a policy that depends on the time of year. Think ski resorts in peak season. In our case, it was a 7-day cancellation window, which obviously we had blown. So what happens if you need to cancel inside the window? The official policy for most hotel points programs is that they'll give you back all your points, but they're going to charge you one night in cash at whatever the prevailing rate is. In our case at Wild Dunes, that would have been over $500. But if you booked something fancier, you could potentially be looking at thousands of dollars. No, I didn't pay $500 to cancel our beach vacation that I really wanted to take. There are 2 ways people handle this situation when it comes up. The first one is what I did. I called Hyatt, explained that there was no physical way for us to get there, and I asked really nicely. The rep was sympathetic, but ultimately, she had to get approval from the hotel itself to cancel without the fee. Thankfully, when Hyatt called the property, they were really gracious and immediately agreed to waive the fee. If they hadn't been as nice, I would have gone to the fallback, and I'm mentioning it in case you find yourself in this sticky situation. A lot of times, properties are willing to change your dates, even if the policy says no changes. So you can move your reservation way out. In that ski season example, I'd push it to May or June when they're more likely to be flexible with you. Then you can wait a respectful amount of time, whether that's a week or a month, and call back to cancel unless you actually want to stay then. The third piece of cancellation ended up being the trickiest, even though it should have been the easiest. I booked our rental car through Capital One Travel to use part of my husband's annual $300 credit. I've done this a bunch of times, and I've even canceled a bunch of times. But unfortunately, in all of this shuffling of plans, canceling the car totally slipped my mind until about 45 minutes after we were supposed to pick it up. I had booked a rate that said free cancellation anytime before pickup, but I can't say that I feel like this was handled very smoothly by Capital One Travel, but some of it was just bad luck in terms of timing and circumstances. A lot of the travel portals, whether it's Capital One, Chase, or even Priceline, have some intermediary supplier that they work with through a separate part of the business in order to get you the best deal. So even though I could call Alamo customer service and tell them I wasn't coming and they could release the car for a refund, the department Capital One needed to call was closed until Monday morning, which was well after Alamo's free cancellation deadline. But all's well that ends well. I spent way too much time on the phone Friday night stressing and trying to resolve this situation, but after a 15-minute phone call on Monday morning, Alamo approved the refund, no problem, and Capital One gave me back the travel credit I used to book the car. I'm still bummed that we didn't manage to make it to Wild Dunes, again, but at least I don't have the added insult of paying last-minute cancellation fees on a trip that I really wanted to take. If I had, I probably would have filed a claim with my Allianz travel insurance policy or even the Chase Inc. Business Preferred that I used for our Southwest taxes and fees. But to make that work, I would have had to handle things differently, like allowing Southwest to rebook us on the flight for the following day instead of canceling outright, since that would have caused an overnight trip delay and triggered our insurance policy. Anyway, maybe the third time will be the charm for Wild Dunes. But what this whole mess did remind me of is why points are so worth the effort. When a trip falls through, usually you've got much more flexible cancellation policies than you would with a cash booking. So let's get into how to actually earn and use those points. What am I giving you this week? Apart from some ideas on how to handle those last-minute changes, I'm going to re-release one of my earliest episodes, How to Get Started Traveling on Points. The reason I'm sharing this one again is that there are a lot more of you out there listening than there were when I first started the show. And I think some of this info is just so fundamental to traveling more with your family, or even as a couple or a solo traveler. This episode is going to cover a lot of really critical pieces of the puzzle at a high level, rather than the true nuts and bolts. For more details, I really encourage you to sign up at thefamilyvoyage.com/newsletter. I've got a whole ebook that's totally free and takes you through even more than what's in this podcast episode. And the even better news is that one of my first projects once the kids are back at school later this week is to overhaul that ebook and update it for all the changes that have popped up in these last couple of months. So you'll get an original copy for free now when you sign up, but I'm also going to let all 3,000 of you on my email list know as soon as the new version's available. I'm really excited about this update, so be sure you join in the fun. And now for that re-release. If you're listening to this, I'm guessing you're like me. You love the idea of traveling with your family, but when you start looking at flights for 4 or 5 people, hotel rooms, rental cars, those numbers can get scary fast, right? Today we're going to dive deep into how you can turn your household expenses into amazing family trips. Now here's the thing. I've been traveling with points and miles for almost 20 years, but it wasn't until the last few years that I got really serious about it. These days, we're taking our kids on trips we never could have afforded otherwise. We've done Hawaii, Costa Rica, Europe, you name it, and we're mostly paying in points. I'm going to walk you through exactly how we do it. No fancy jargon, no overwhelming details, just practical strategies and examples that actually work for busy parents. And if you want to dive even deeper after this episode, I've got a free ebook waiting for you in the show notes, or you can go to thefamilyvoyage.com/free travel to start your journey. We can get you going in just one afternoon. Sound good? Let's jump in. So first, let's talk about why this is all harder for families. When you're traveling solo or as a couple, earning and using points is pretty straightforward. You just need enough points to cover flights and hotels for 1 or 2 people, and every adult who's traveling can basically cover themselves. But with kids, it's a whole different ballgame. You need to redeem a lot more points, but half of the people traveling can't contribute since they aren't allowed to open their own credit cards. When we travel, we're typically looking for 4 award seats on the same flight, and outside of the US, we sometimes have to book 2 hotel rooms since occupancy limits are really strict. And trust me, those hotels mean it. If you want to travel for free as a family, you have to be really strategic about earning and using those points. All right, let's talk about how to actually earn points. The secret? Sign-up bonuses. You'll earn way more points from welcome offers on new credit cards than you ever will from everyday spending. Here's how it works. Credit cards offer huge blocks of points when you open a new account and meet the minimum spending requirement within those first few months. We're talking bonuses that could be worth a week at a nice hotel or a couple of flights. The key is being strategic about which cards you open and when. Start with cards that earn transferable points. These are points that you can move to different airline and hotel partners, which gives you max flexibility. Even if you prefer to fly a specific airline or stay with a certain hotel chain, you want to keep your options open when you're trying to find the best deal to stretch a vacation budget for a family. The Chase Sapphire Preferred is a great starting point. You can find the link to this one in the show notes. This card earns Chase's Ultimate Rewards points, which are my favorite. They're some of the most flexible and useful ones in this whole game. The welcome bonuses are big, and those points can transfer to tons of great partners: United, Southwest, Hyatt, and also British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, Air Canada, and plenty more. Don't worry, I'll explain in a minute why you should care about those foreign airlines, even if you never fly them. The $95 annual fee on the Chase Sapphire Preferred is pretty reasonable for what you get, and you can just think of it as a membership fee to get your foot in the door. Depending on your overall spending, you might consider instead getting the Chase Sapphire Reserve. It's a much more expensive credit card these days, but it comes with some great travel benefits like lounge access and global entry credit. Plus, you might be able to offset a huge chunk of the annual fee with credits for things like Peloton and Apple Music if you're already paying for those. There are also some perks when it's time to use those points that could make it worthwhile. This card was recently refreshed, and I'll be honest that some people don't love it, but it could work so well for our family that I've tried to get it 3 times. Chase wouldn't give it to me with the sign-up bonus because I got that same card 8 years ago, but if you're eligible, I'd definitely give it a look. There are a few additional cards, including some free ones, that earn those same ultimate rewards points, and they're often at better rates on your daily spending than the Sapphire cards. If you're a small business owner like I am, grab a free Inc. business credit card as well. All of those points can pool together and give you a really healthy stash of Chase points to work with once you're ready to start planning a trip. Eventually, you'll want to branch out into the credit card points from other banks. Think of each one like a unique currency with a different exchange rate, and there are different uses depending on your circumstances. We have credit cards that earn flexible points from Capital One and American Express, and I think we'll be adding Citibank back into the mix pretty soon. Once you have a few credit cards that give you flexible points, you could consider credit cards for airlines that you fly a lot. I can tell you that my husband and I have a lot more airline credit cards than we ever expected to. We've opened them when they offer bigger than usual welcome bonuses on top of perks that save us real money, like fee waivers or hotel credits. But as I'll explain in a few minutes, you don't necessarily have to have those. Some hotel credit cards can be a good value for families too, but keep in mind that they aren't all created equal. Most of them give you a free night certificate every year that you have it open, but pay close attention to the expiration dates and maximum value on those. One type of welcome offer you'll sometimes see from hotels is something like 5 nights free when you sign up, but personally, I would avoid those. The certificates are way less flexible than regular points, and because they cap the value of the property plus their expiration dates to consider, you might not even be able to use them. Lots of hotel chains offer 4th and 5th night free when you're booking with points, and the certificates don't usually qualify for those deals either. Just like with airline cards, you don't necessarily need a hotel credit card because all the different chains can receive transfers from those flexible points we talked about before. And sometimes you can get 2 or even 4 hotel points for each of those transferable points. Here's where it gets really powerful. If you're a 2-adult household, you can both get the same credit card. That means double the welcome bonuses. That's what we do if they're points that we use a ton of, like those Chase Ultimate Rewards. Just don't make each other authorized users because each bank has a different rule about how often they want to see you opening new cards. And sometimes those authorized user cards can count against you. They make it harder to get approved for more cards down the line. Ronnie and I usually coordinate our new credit cards. We each open a few every year, usually taking turns with our applications. I also get a few new cards every year for my business. Between all of those, that's how we accumulate enough points to cover flights and hotels for our family of 4. I know it probably sounds like a lot and you will be paying annual fees, but overall you're still spending a lot less in annual fees than you'd spend on those flights and hotels that the points cover. And you don't have to keep every credit card open forever. After a full year, you should evaluate every single card to see if the benefits make it a keeper for you or if it's not worth the annual fee. You might get an annual travel credit or a free hotel night on your anniversary that makes it worth keeping. And sometimes you can ask banks for a retention offer to incentivize you to keep the card open. Okay, so you've earned a bunch of points. Now what? The first rule, book early. Award availability typically opens 11 or 12 months in advance, and the best airline seats go fast, especially for families that need 4 or more tickets. We try to book almost a year ahead if we know where we want to go. Yeah, it requires planning, but it's worth it. The first place I usually look when we're booking is Google Flights. There's just no better tool out there for understanding which airlines fly where and when. I love that you can put in multiple cities. I'll often include all the airports here in Ohio just in case there's a great deal or a direct flight from one of them. Then I use Points and Award Tool to search for award availability across multiple airlines. Those tools aren't perfect, but they give you a good starting point. They'll help you see what's possible. I also love using them to set alerts. In fact, when we were in Venice over the summer, I got an alert in my email that some last-minute award space opened up, and I was able to switch us to premium economy for fewer points than our original economy tickets. I'd say that Points is a little more user-friendly and has better alerts, but Award Tool gives you more flexibility by searching multiple cities at the same time. One limitation of both of those tools is that they're missing the airlines that use points called Avios. That includes British Airways, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Finnair, and Qatar. Be sure to check those airlines directly if you think they might be a good fit for your itinerary. Obviously, nothing beats scouring each airline's websites individually, but these aggregator tools are a quick way to start understanding what to look for. They can be a huge time saver. You might see that United flight that you really wanted offered cheaper through Air Canada or Avianca, or maybe Alaska's offering a great deal on an American flight. Especially when you're getting started, those tools can really help you get the lay of the land. Another important point is understanding airline partnerships. I know that I mentioned finding great availability for United through Air Canada, and that's because they're partners. So there are 3 major alliances that you need to know about: Star Alliance, SkyTeam, and oneworld. Research each of those 3 alliances and see which airlines are included in them. They each have at least one of the major domestic carriers here in the US, plus lots of partners around the world. Some airlines also have non-alliance partners that can be really useful depending on your destination. And it's this weird thing, but a lot of times you can find partner awards cheaper than if you were booking directly with the airline that you'll be flying. It happened to me just yesterday. Once you find something promising, go directly to the airline's website to verify and book. Be sure to never transfer points until you've confirmed that the availability is really there on the airline's website. Sometimes those research tools can show phantom space, and it's your responsibility to check before you transfer. Now here's the beautiful thing about transferable points. You don't have to commit them until you're ready to book. Let's say you want to fly to Europe. You might find great availability on United, which is a Chase transfer partner. Or maybe you find something better on Air France, which works with a lot of different flexible points and often has bonuses that you can combine with sale prices. You search first, figure out which program has the best award, and then transfer your points. Until you've got a really good handle on what programs you use often, and you're sitting on a big stash of points, and there's a really good transfer bonus, you shouldn't move any points unless you're ready to book right away. Always have a specific redemption in mind. I want to talk for a second about what are called repositioning flights. These can be a popular option, but they're not right for everyone. It's when you fly from your home airport to a major hub, hopefully on a cheap ticket, to take advantage of a great deal or a better travel experience that you can only get from a hub. But your 2 flights are totally separate tickets, often on different airlines. You'll always want to build in a long layover, even overnight, because if something goes wrong, neither airline has to help you. There's a great website called Flights From that shows you all the nonstop routes from a specific airport. So if we're looking at Ponta Delgada in the Azores, I can put in that airport and then check the map to figure out all the possible connections that might work for us. That helps me figure out what to search in the tools that I talked about before, and it can also help me evaluate if repositioning is going to make sense. We actually did a repositioning flight for our trip to Costa Rica over spring break, and it mostly worked out well. We went that route because all the Southwest flights from Columbus to Costa Rica were crazy early, like 5:30 a.m., and that doesn't say vacation to our family. So instead of getting up at 3 a.m., we flew down to Orlando the night before and stayed at the Hyatt inside the terminal. Then we hopped on a nonstop in the morning. For my husband's recent flight to Tel Aviv, flying from Columbus with a stop in New York or Boston would have been between 70 and 100,000 points each way. That's crazy. Instead, I got him a 9,000-point flight to Boston and a flight from Boston that was just over 30,000 points with a different carrier. It was a huge savings and definitely worth repositioning for. You really have to weigh if it makes sense for your family to reposition on every specific trip. Honestly, most of the time, we don't choose to take a repositioning flight, either because of scheduling issues or when I price out that shorter domestic ticket, it might not be a huge cost difference for us. Another option is to take a repositioning drive. We live in Columbus, and our only direct international flights are to Canada. So for some trips, we might scoot over to Detroit, Pittsburgh, or Cleveland in the car and fly from there. We did that to fly to Iceland nonstop from Detroit, and it was actually a lot easier than we thought. Okay, I have to talk separately about something that's a complete game changer for families, and that's the Southwest Companion Pass. The Companion Pass lets one person fly with you for free. You just pay taxes and fees, which are around $5 for domestic flights in the US. Sounds amazing, right? But here's what makes it especially powerful for families. If you're a 2-adult family, you can each earn your own Companion Pass and designate a different kid to fly with you. That means 4 of you can fly on 2 tickets, even if those tickets are bought with points. We're talking about trips that might cost over $1,000 for basically nothing, and you can use the Companion Pass over and over every year that you have it. The easiest way to get a Companion Pass is to open 2 Southwest credit cards in the same year, one business and one personal. You hit the minimum spend on both, and boom, you've got enough points for the Companion Pass. Sometimes there are even promotions that give you enough points to earn a Companion Pass with a single card. And the great thing is that you aren't trading in your points for a Companion Pass, you still get to use those points for your own tickets. The trick is timing. Apply in November or December for the first card, but don't hit the spending requirement until January. That way you get the pass for almost 2 full years. Down in the show notes, I have a really detailed article that goes through all of it. We've used our companion passes for so many trips. Weekend getaways, spring break, you name it. Our kids flew with us to Hawaii on points twice in 9 months. Our out-of-pocket cost for each kid was just $11 for each round trip. It's one of those things that sounds too good to be true, but it's completely legit and it's incredibly valuable for families like ours. As of when I'm recording this in late November, we haven't heard of any big changes coming to the companion pass. But we don't know if Southwest has another party foul up their sleeves. They've been making a lot of changes lately that are very consumer unfriendly, so we'll see what's coming. Let's move on to hotels now. Hotels can be easier than flights in some ways because usually you have a little more flexibility. But as your family grows, options in some countries shrink due to occupancy restrictions. If I could only have points in one hotel program, it would definitely be Hyatt. Their properties are generally high quality. The award chart still offers really good value. Plus, if you travel a ton each year and eventually get to top-tier globalist status, you get free breakfast for everyone on top of other perks like suite upgrades. This is huge for our family. We're talking about saving potentially hundreds of dollars on breakfast alone for a longer stay. For that Costa Rica trip, we stayed at the Ondas Papagayo using Hyatt points. Beautiful resort, amazing location, and we paid $0 out of pocket for the room. Plus, we got free breakfast as globalists and still had access to all the resort amenities like kayaks and paddle boards and snorkel gear. It was all included even though a resort fee was waived. Even if you aren't going to try for status, Hyatt is still a great program to look at because it gives you solid value and you can transfer Chase points there. One tip that's specific to Hyatt is that if you do end up needing a second room, you can ask the hotel if they offer the family rate plan. It's kind of niche, but at some properties, mostly in Europe, you can get a room for your kids at up to half off. The discount varies, so you do have to check. That second room has to be paid with cash, but the first one can be booked on points. Unfortunately, the second room can only officially be for kids 12 and under, which I think is kind of silly. But if you have young kids and you're looking for 2 rooms, don't sleep on that program. IHG is another great program for families, especially if you're doing a lot of travel in the US to places like national parks. They have tons of properties, and you can find solid options for relatively few points per night. When you book on points, you'll also get the 4th night free with IHG if you hold one of their credit cards. Those cards have a $99 annual fee, and they get you a free night certificate every year, plus they give you platinum status, which has gotten me a pretty nice suite upgrade. Holiday Inn Express properties include free breakfast, pools, and they're pretty much everywhere. They're not sexy, but they're totally functional for families. If you see a lot of IHG in your future, take a look at getting one of those cards. Generally, those points aren't worth as much as Hyatt, so I'd rather not transfer from Chase to IHG. A few times every year, you can actually buy IHG points super cheap, so be sure to price that out if you have a special hotel in mind. I plan to use my stash of IHG points and my free night certificate for 5 nights at the Kimpton Seafire in Grand Cayman, which is one of the best IHG properties for families in this entire hemisphere. One word of warning, though. Outside of North America, I've had a really hard time booking IHG hotels for our family of 4. Nearly all the rooms in Europe only allow 2 or 3 people per room, but the rates are still really high. If you want to go somewhere like Zion National Park or the Caribbean, IHG is a great program to look at. There are tons of other hotel programs to choose from. If you have Amex membership rewards points, every point you transfer into Hilton becomes 2 hotel points. I'm using that to our advantage in Portugal, where I was able to find a hotel that's 34,000 Hilton points per night for each 2-person room. Even though I need to book 2 rooms for our family, at 34,000 points per night for 2 rooms, it's still really reasonable. Citi gives you a 1-to-2 ratio when you transfer their thank you points to Choice hotels. Those might not be your top pick in the US, but they have some awesome properties in places like Northern Europe and Japan. You can also check out the higher-end Ascend collection within Choice. I'll also sometimes book apartments through the Capital One travel portal and use the $300 credit we get every year with our Venture X card to save some money on that. I've booked a few hotels through the United Hotels portal, which has really reasonable rates and offers me a $50 credit twice a year on some of the United branded credit cards that we have through Chase. Basically, there are a lot of options around hotels to help your family stay either free or much cheaper when you travel. Before we finish, I want to share some practical tips that are specific to traveling with kids on points. First, if you have any flexibility within your school break, you'll have much better luck finding award seats for flights. Being able to shift your trip by even a few days can make a huge difference. I know that means you aren't maximizing your days off necessarily, So you have to decide what's more important to you. Personally, I really try to stretch those days away as much as I can, even if it means using a few more points. When you're booking hotels, especially internationally, consider booking 2 rooms. Unfortunately, a lot of times a connecting room is treated as a premium option and costs more than double the price of 2 regular rooms. If you're going for 2 rooms, it's worth reaching out to the hotel to let them know that your kids will be in one of the rooms and that you'd like a connection if possible. This solves the occupancy limit problem and gives everyone more space. Don't get obsessed with getting maximum value for every single point. I know that's hard if you follow Points and Miles Facebook groups, but focus on whether the redemption gets you the trip that you want at a price that works for you, as long as it's not absolutely terrible. A redemption that gets you okay value and lets your family take that dream trip, it's a win in my book. All right, let's bring this all together. The key to free family travel is being strategic with your credit cards. You're using sign-up bonuses to build up big pools of transferable points. You're transferring those points to partners to unlock the best value, and you're booking early. We usually book almost a year ahead to maximize our chances of getting those good award seats. Does it take some effort? For sure. But once you get the hang of it, it becomes second nature and the payoff is incredible. Instead of travel being this rare, expensive treat, it becomes a regular part of your family's life. We take our kids somewhere almost every long weekend. Every school break, we're off exploring. And we're mostly not stressing about the budget because the flights and hotels are already covered. If you want to get started right now, grab my free ebook. It's linked down there in the show notes, and it has a lot more details. You can also find it at thefamilyvoyage.com/free travel. I'll walk you through everything you need to help jumpstart your points journey this afternoon. I've also included referral links for the cards I mentioned: the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Capital One Venture X, IHG One Rewards Premier, Southwest cards, and a few others. If you use those links, we both benefit because it helps me keep making free content like this for you. Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful, be sure to follow along and drop a 5-star review below. You can even send it to another busy parent who wants to travel more. You can always find me at thefamilyvoyage.com, where I've got tons of resources to help you plan your family adventures. Now go book that trip.